If you watch professional wrestling, especially WWE, you know not only are there a lot of real rules, but there's a lot of unwritten rules too. This is why it's so hard to get new people into the world of sports entertainment, because they will ask you question after question, and the answer to most is just, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is, you just have to accept it, and they don't want to accept it, and nor should they, and they walk off to do something else. Like golf. However, there are also exceptions to these rules within the framework of World Wrestling Entertainment, which actually makes it even more confusing for us, the fans. And yet, because we're all doofuses, we carry on watching anyway. But my name is Simon Miller, welcome to What Culture Wrestling, and these are the 10 exceptions to WWE's own rules. Number 10, it's sports entertainment, except when it's not. We all know this, Vince McMahon doesn't like the term wrestling because he believes that what his dad did, so he came up with sports entertainment instead. This divides people right down the middle, but look, it's just a marketing thing. You don't have to worry about it, who even cares? The weird thing is that while this has been a steadfast rule for ages, every now and then it does just get thrown out of the window, even in 2020. Because what happened at Backlash? That's right, we had the greatest wrestling match ever, and everybody was scratching their heads like, wait, we're not allowed to say wrestling around here. But then it was right smack bang in the title. But actually, when you think about it, Vince McMahon breaks this rule every 12 months, because what's the name of WWE's biggest show? WrestleMania. Yep, WWE Showcase of the Immortals does have that word slap bang in the middle of the name. And I sometimes think that Vince McMahon would have rather have called it the Colossal Tussle, which I'm not making up, by the way. That was genuinely a suggestion on the ideas list, and now we would be waiting for the Colossal Tussle 37. Sounds like Monster's about to do battle for me, but either way, no matter what he does want to do, Vince McMahon will never actually be able to run away from the word wrestling, because it's always going to be up there in lights. Number 9, the announcing. If you have ever seen the leaked rule sheet for the WWE announcers, you quickly understand how stressful that job must be. They're not even allowed to say he, she, or they. They have to constantly reference the performer as to not confuse the audience, because of course we are stupid. I wouldn't really say that it assists Raw or SmackDown and makes it any better, and this is doubly true when you go and watch something like AEW or New Japan. You commit your promotion of choice, and then you feel these people actually chatting like they're normal human beings, and well, it just feels so much nicer. For example, while Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, and Excalibur may also divide fans a little bit, when you do hear them talking, not only does it sound real, they go off script loads, and they have a little bit of back and forth. And I like back and forth. Makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and like they're all friends. You even have somebody like Chris Jericho, who has done a lot of color commentary in All Elite Wrestling, and I think we can all say, whether you're an AEW fan or whether you're a WWE fan, Vince McMahon would never have given him that much rope. He would have been on a tight leash. I mean, some of the things that he said. The likes of Samoa Joe have proven that if you can operate within the system, you can be absolutely brilliant, but it also leads me to think, just imagine how good he would be if he was allowed to run through the woods naked, figuratively speaking. Number 8, countouts are lame. And that's because in WWE, they are. If you have watched my little show known of ups and downs, you will know that I cannot stand any more of these screwy or false finishes from WWE, simply because they do them too much. It's the boy who cried wolf. After a while, you just get a bit tired of it all. That's not exclusive to them either. If any promotion on the planet were to do something over and over and over again, I'm going to get bored. I'm just a man. But therein lies the point. Because they have run them into the ground, there's no drama and there's no emotion that you can get from somebody being counted out. But that's not true in the landscape of professional wrestling. Look at New Japan from the G1 Climax. Because in 2019, following a 6-minute brawl, you had Zack Sabre Jr. and Bad Luck Fale on the outside punching each other in the face. Because you know, they were trying to win a match. When Zack realized the referee was up to the count of 15 though, because over in the East the count goes up to 20, he thought, well, I better get back in the ring. I don't want to lose. So he stopped fighting, he stopped brawling, he ran, he got in the ring, then Bad Luck Fale was like, oh sugar, I better do the same. But he missed out by milliseconds, and it surprised the fans so much they actually went, they gasped. It was so well done and so timed, the audience couldn't believe what they had just seen, and nobody thought this was a dumb way to end the match. In fact, it was universally praised. And again, WWE could just do this if they backed off from them a little bit and only used them as and when it saw fit. Number 7, referees looking out for closed fists. Do you know what is actually a rule in professional wrestling? That you're not allowed to hit your opponent with a closed fist. I mean, this was more prevalent back in the day, and even then it was more an avenue for commentators to talk about instead of a referee going, oh, I'm going to disqualify you. But if there was a rule book, that would be written in there. This is why when Big Show started walking around KOing people with his massive punch, some nerds like me were like, wait a minute, within professional wrestling, you're not actually allowed to do this. What the hell is going on? But let's face it, the man is so massive and the man is so huge, if WWE had decided to bring that back into rotation, even from the commentator's point of view, it would have been dumb. And I'm sure plenty of other performers are doing this too, but they made such a big deal on focusing in on this, I was a little bit worried that maybe somebody would get up and say something. But look, in a world where finishers aren't finishers anymore and usually are just done for a near fall, it was just so nice to know if Big Show does indeed clonk you right in the head, you're going down and you're going to lose. This was the right decision to make. Number 6, choking is illegal. Maybe. This one is weird, because if Samoa Joe takes Seth Rollins' neck over to the top ropes and starts choking him with it, the referee will give him to the count of 5, and if he doesn't break it, he is going to lose the match. However, if he locks on the Coquina Clutch, which is essentially doing the same things, but with his arms, the official goes, yep, I have no problem with this. You choke that boy out. There's no problem, you carry on, you definitely collect $200, and this is because of the huge influence that mixed martial arts, yes, UFC and all of that, has had on WWE. Even though Vince McMahon swears blinds, he doesn't even know what that is. It's great though, because we are all aware of this other sport, and because that has so much legitimacy, if you can take some elements and put it in professional wrestling, well, it just makes things so much easier to believe, and never forget that's what wrestling is about, suspending that disbelief. It means when Rollins does tap out, you could go, well, of course he did, because if he didn't, now he would be dead, and nobody wants to see that. And you can go way back to when Taz debuted to kind of tap into this, because he choked out Kurt Angle, and what happened to that result? It was thrown out because everybody decided, nope, that wasn't a legal move. Nobody can argue any of this, and long may it continue, because you know that it works, and even if you think otherwise, you could literally pick up a remote and change the channel and see somebody getting choked out for real. Number 5, don't, however, choke with weapons. When Daniel Bryan, as part of the Nexus, choked ring announcer Justin Roberts with his tie, even though he'd been told to go to the ring and create as much mayhem as possible, WWE management wasn't happy. In fact, they were so pissed off, they called Daniel Bryan, they went, oh, I'm really sorry, pal, you're fired. This was, of course, because they were a PG product with relative sponsors, and thankfully, eventually, Daniel Bryan was brought back, but that's not the point. Because today, you will rarely see this on Raw or SmackDown or a pay-per-view. In fact, WWE stays away from it as far as you can, but if you do want the exception, well, just go and watch All Elite Wrestling, specifically their Full Gear pay-per-view. Because here, Jon Moxley got a chain and wrapped it around Kenny Omega's neck and pulled on it so hard, I genuinely believed he wanted to decapitate the man, and you will never be able to convince me otherwise. I mean, this whole match was a bloodbath display that proved how far AEW was willing to go, and of course that's territory that WWE stays away from, but don't get mad about that. These are the things that we should embrace. You need variety, you need things to be different, it makes everything so much more fun. And hands up if you like having fun. I tell you, just put their hand down, that one guy in the comments that doesn't like anything. Number 4, you ignore the camera drawing promos. A big question when it comes to backstage skits is that why wrestlers don't know they're being filmed. Like, you wouldn't be able to ignore the camera, it's definitely right there, and yet ever since you get into it, you just have to pretend that these guys are walking around like, oh, I have no idea what's going on, even though of course they absolutely do. If you zoom back to TNA in its heyday though, they actually did something completely different, and dare I say it, it was kind of cool, because instead of like the high production camera shots with all the quality, they were doing guerrilla style film work, which meant, I guess, that somebody was hiding out trying to film these guys, and it worked wonderfully, and kind of felt like you were seeing things you shouldn't be seeing. So you saw guys and girls recovering from matches or getting out their frustrations, and the whole time, it was like you were behind the scenes. I really dug it. WWE has never done this, which is fine in its own right. I mean, again, we all accept this now, it's not a problem, but it doesn't make any sense. You can't argue that, and why sometimes when they're doing a promo or interview, do they know it's there, but then they drop the microphone and then poof, it just vanishes. Number 3, power drivers are banned. Many fans love to point out that while power drivers are banned in WWE, The Undertaker is allowed to do a tombstone on whoever the hell he wants, and no one says otherwise. And there are other exceptions to this, like in 2013 when CM Punk piledrived John Cena and set the world into Makedown, but right now we're just focused on the Phenom. And for goodness sake, this is a really good thing, because one, The Undertaker, or Mark Calloway, whatever you want to call him, is one of the safest workers in the history of the business. Just go look at his record. He has done the tombstone piledriver to Vicky Guerrero and Linda McMahon, and nobody has ever been hurt. So it would have been dumb to have gone up to him and said, "Oh, sorry dude, now just come up with a new finish." And talking of his finish, we've already mentioned how finishers don't finish anybody off, but the tombstone piledriver more often than not does, and also because nobody else is doing it, it means it has more weight. I mean, people in the company trust the dead man to such a degree, they allowed him to tombstone piledriver AJ Styles on top of a shed during the damn Boneyard match. If nothing else, other piledrivers have actually ended wrestlers' careers, so I think it's good we do leave them be, and if you must see them, have a guess what other companies do allow them. That's right, 99.9% of them, it's really not a problem. Number 2, every new guy has to be renamed. When ECW and WCW died, WWE could basically do whatever the hell they wanted. There wasn't another big game in town, so if Vince McMahon called you up and went, "Hey pal, I want you to come in and be the Elephant Man," if you wanted to get back to the big stage, you just had to go, "Alright Vince, I will be the Elephant Man." That's apparently what I think elephants make. That's not the noise they make. This is why wrestlers all over the place were having their names changed, because WWE wanted to own their branding, and yet the exception was CM Punk. He wasn't the first or last guy that this did happen to, but there's just something so fascinating about why this shift didn't happen. Because when he was making his move from Ring of Honor to WWE in 2005, the conversation at the time was, "Oh, I wonder what they're gonna call him." And I truly think if this had been anybody else, well, they wouldn't have kept their name. Take somebody like Samoa Joe. Now, obviously, he did join WWE in 2015, but if he had joined 10 years prior, he wouldn't have been called Samoa Joe. WWE would have called him Hawaiian Pete or something, and it would have sucked. There's plenty of theories as to why this is as well, but I just believe that WWE actually understood how synonymous the name CM Punk was to his fans and how well it tied into his character. And they were right. Like, imagine he was called AB Rock. No one's getting behind AB Rock. In fact, AB Rock to me sounds like a damn jobber. He can go over there. Number 1, no blading. Or balding, as my autocorrect changed it to. I mean, that is something very different. And of course, I couldn't be involved. Anyways, the idea of blading is still mad to me, and I've known about it for years, but getting a razor blade out of your wrist tape or whatever, and nicking your own forehead just to produce some blood, I mean, that is barbaric. There's no two ways about it. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it makes me feel all, well, squishy. It's why WWE banned it so early on, because Vince McMahon didn't think any casual fan was going to accept it. But sometimes wrestlers didn't care about that, such as WrestleMania 13 when Bret the Hitman Hart met Stone Cold Steve Austin. And look, the match was 100% better off for it, and don't pretend that Steve Austin and Bret Hart didn't know they were going to piss off the boss. But imagine that last shot of Stone Cold Steve Austin the sharpshooter without his face covered in the crimson mask. It's just not as good. It lacks drama, it lacks emotion, and that's why this was the right decision. It's even said that the Hitman offered to be the person that cut Steve's own head so that he wouldn't suffer any backlash, but whatever the truth, any fine they may have had to pay at the time is now gone, but the memories and the visual, well, that will last for a lifetime. Know of any other WWE rules where there are massive exceptions just glaring at you in the face? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles, follow What Culture on Twitter, What Culture WWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. I always appreciate you clicking the videos, and I'll see you soon. Bit of a mime artist.